Good evening and welcome to this evening's episode of Ask Mary Anything Within Reason, as long as you start asking me your questions after 6:07 p.m. Eastern. Anyway, sorry for the slight technical delay. It's good to be with you guys. Hope everybody had a great weekend. And let us just dive right in to your questions. All right, starting with GIFT. Uh-oh. Wait, hang on one second. Nothing to worry about. Sorry. If time allows, could you share thoughts on lesser known news like Musk's new city, Starbase in Texas, which reportedly became official after 97.7 voter approval on May 3rd? Yes, that is indeed the case. Because, Elon Musk does not have enough, he needs more. By the way, yes, 97.7% voter approval, but as far as I'm aware, this is a very small group of voters making this decision. So it's not like all of Texas voted on this. For reasons I confess I don't know a lot about this, but Starlink is Starbase is now going to be in a city in Texas that is where Musk's Starlink company, I think, is going to be based. And essentially, yeah, Elon Musk is going to own an American city because, again, he doesn't have enough. Let's see. So just to make it clear who was voting on this, again, lest we give Elon Musk too much credit or continue the myth that tons and tons of people support him. The 97.7% of the people who voted to make this happen are employed by SpaceX. And I said Starlink. I meant SpaceX earlier. And they're the ones who voted to make it a city. So kind of seems like insider trading to me. I don't think anything good can come of this because it just makes him immune in more ways. It gives him power, new kinds of power. But I think the system is so rigged in his favor that it almost doesn't matter. But we'll, of course, continue to keep you updated on all of this. Okay, Tom Dalton. Tom, question. Jesus, can you tell it's Sunday? Yeah. Question: have you or will you write a growing up Trump book? I already did. Okay, my first book came out in July 2020, and it is called Too Much and Never Enough: How My Family Created the World's Most Dangerous Man. It has been called a memoir, but it's not. I think of it as a psychological history of a family, my family. And in it, I don't discuss growing up Trump, but I discuss how Donald and my dad, his older brother, the rest of the siblings were shaped by growing up the children of my grandfather, Fred Trump, and my grandmother, also named Mary Trump. And I think my impetus for writing it was for people to understand how psychologically damaged a person Donald is and how incapable of change he is and how cruel he is and how none of this will ever be different because of his developmental history. So, but it does, I think, give insight in what it was like being a kid in that family. It was not pleasant. More recently, I came out with a book in September of 2024 called Who Could Ever Love You, which actually is a memoir, but it's a memoir of my family, which is to say my growing up with my mom and dad and the extended family as well. So you're welcome to check those books out if you'd like, if you want a little bit more insight into that kind of thing. But if you're looking for a growing up Trump book that's like a more Kardashian style, I would refer you to one of my cousins because they would, be much more capable of doing that than I. Okay, Joe's top 5. Question. How do you think Donald would perform in an actual job interview? Well, um, I'm gonna ruin the punchline. He would get the job. Yeah, how would he perform in an actual job interview? Well, I would love to see that actually, because it might like if people just sort of thought about things in that context, imagine if Donald had a job. Um or imagine if Donald had to go through an FBI background check. He literally he couldn't get any job in the United States of America except for the most important one, which is the presidency. That's how backward our system is. He would be incapable of sitting for a job interview without offending the person interviewing for him for the job and revealing just how incompetent and unfit he is for any job he might be applying for. Also, like he wouldn't have the humility. He'd be like, "What do you mean I have to be interviewed? Just give me the job." All right, CK, question. How do you become a super sticker? How do you donate? Both most excellent questions, which I'm going to answer after stalling for a second, just to remind everybody who is a super sticker how much we appreciate you, and to let all of you know who do give us gifts on occasion how much we need them and how grateful we are because you guys really do keep this going. You really do. So, in order to become a super sticker, there's a dollar sign icon in the live chat. So, that all you need to do is click on the dollar sign icon, and then you can enroll in the program however you'd like. It will walk you through the steps to do that. So, thank you for asking that, CK. Philip, question. Mary, have you seen the videos by a Chinese guy from Chon Jing? My apologies for the bad pronunciation. Named Brian. He does a great vocal impression of your uncle with some gentle satire. I have not. Is he? I just if I don't know where the videos are they on TikTok or Instagram or whatever? I haven't, but I'll check. I'll see if I can find them. I'll seek them out. Um, although quite honestly, I don't really enjoy impersonations of Donald. Because, I mean, one, just who needs to hear more of him? Like, even if it's satire, although I do appreciate good satire, so I would listen, watch the videos in that spirit for sure. But the thing about if you've known somebody forever, nobody on the planet is going to sound exactly like them. So it's there are better or worse impersonations, but nobody's going to nail it 100%. But I want to check out the satire. So thank you for the heads up there. Lisa, question for you, Mary. It is clear that your uncle has early signs of dementia and often doesn't make any sense when he talks. Why do the Republicans still stand behind him? Thank you. Well, thank you, Lisa, for the question. Because there's no alternative. That's one reason. But the biggest reason is because Donald has the Republican base wrapped around his finger. Why? The reasons are numerous and complicated. But, one is because he's tapped into something about these people or that these people have craved. Some people think it's his economic populism, for example. I think it's his cruelty and his racism and his homophobia and the fact that Donald Trump exemplifies the aggrieved white man in a way nobody ever has except maybe Robert E. Lee. Um, and he is a loser who has failed upward, and I think people admire that. They also admire, the fact that he's gotten away with everything. Like, I know that's hard for us, but we have to stop looking at things from our frame of reference solely when trying to understand people who are diametrically opposite to us. So, I think in the past, the mystery for a lot of people, sane people has been, why do people keep voting against their own self-interest? Well, what are their self-interests? How do you know what their self-interests are? If you think that they have the same ones you have, sure, it seems crazy that they would keep voting for people who are destroying the economy and destroying the environment and not giving them health care. That seems crazy, but how do we know those are their self-interests? Maybe their self-interests are to keep white people uh, in power, to keep other people from having the same basic rights they have. You know, we can't look, because no decent human being, and forgive me for saying this, but I'm kind of sick of pulling any punches here. No decent human being who shares our self-interest or shares our interests at all is going to vote for Donald Trump. So there's something else going on. And the Republicans know that Donald has tapped into this thing that energizes their base. They're also afraid of him because they know that he he has no compunction about destroying careers or lives in order to keep people on his side. So it's kind of simple, unfortunately. Brent, thank you so much, Brent, as always. Question, Gam knew about the cheating? I didn't know that one. I actually don't know if my grandmother knew about my grandfather's long-standing affair with his secretary, who was also my godmother. Great family. I mean, she probably did, but I don't have any direct evidence that she did. And, she wasn't going to do anything about it one way or the other. Minus Cheryl, thank you as always. Comment. Happy birthday weekend, Mary. Thank you so much for that. It was a great weekend. I appreciate that. So this is a birthday gift, and if there's anything left over, treats for Mary's kitties. That's awesome. No, that's all going to the Mary Trump Media Kindle of Kittens for treats for the Kindle of Kittens. Thank you for that, Minus Cheryl. Christopher, thank you very, very much. That's awesome. Question: is there any way that we the people can organize a counter protest on June 14th to fight against the military parade? If this isn't him acting like Adolf Hitler, then I don't know what to say. Yeah, I don't. Why is this allowed? Why? Who's letting this happen? It's disgusting. He's destroying our economy, and then he's going to be allowed by whom? I guess Pete Hegseth at the Defense Department to spend $90 million on a military parade to celebrate his fucking birthday, which honestly is going to go down as one of the darkest days in human history because he was born on it. So yes, there should be massive counter protests. In fact, there should be the kind of counter protests that make it impossible for there to be any kind of parade at all. That's what I'm thinking. Because how anybody can think that that's okay or that it's not some harbinger of worse things to come is kind of beyond me. But again, it's just another example of how broken our system is, that one person is allowed to say, I'm throwing myself a military parade. I don't understand. And that's why when we talk about getting the Democrats back into power, we can't talk about rebuilding what? This dysfunctional system that brought us to this place and anyway, no, we need to start from scratch. That's it. Lizzie, question. What do you think of the idea that Donald and Elon might intentionally crash Social Security so as to raid the trust fund? Unreasonable? A possibility? What? Again, I don't know their motives. I mean, specifically, but they have no interest in Social Security. Neither one of them needs Social Security. Nobody they know needs Social Security. So it is a massive, massive fund that they can skim off of, steal directly from. And I think that's part of what Doge is about, is to make it impossible for anybody on the outside to have access into what is actually happening or is actually being done by Elon Musk's minions. I think it's funny. Before the show, we were talking about this in a completely different context, but when it comes to Donald Trump, always assume the worst. Always. He's capable of the worst thing you can imagine. He's capable of much worse than the worst thing you can imagine. And that includes intentionally crashing a social program that has saved countless lives. Has saved countless people from horrible poverty. The disabled, people at the end of their lives, retired people. I mean, they are capable of all of this. They are eliminating the Department of Education. So, yeah, of course. And again, they're setting it up so that they're trying to get to the point where they can do all of that under the radar. So that's why it's important for us to recognize what's possible and keep our eyes open. Stephen, Mary, question. What's up with the traffic on Long Island? I went to the Nassau County Museum of Art and the LAE was backed up both ways on both the trip there and the return trip. Ditto the Cross Island Parkway. Well, as you may or may not know, I lived on Long Island for a very long time, and it is one of my least favorite places on the planet. But what I will say is that, yeah, traffic there has been getting worse and worse and worse over the years. I think it's because, I could understand if it were just traffic going west because of the people wanting to flee. But sorry. It's personal, and it's nothing to do with Long Island. Well, also, I'm from Queens, so, Long Island is a bit of I'm gonna get myself into trouble, so I'm gonna stop right there and just say that I think it's a demographic thing. It's so much more populated than it used to be, and, the infrastructure wasn't updated. So, yeah, it's Cross Island, the LAE, the northern state, it's a mess. Especially if you were out there today when it's raining. Also, Long Island people don't drive very well. That's just the truth. That's just the reality. Brett, thank you so much again. Question: what meal, cakes, or dessert were made at the house? Okay, so my grandmother was a terrible cook, and there was not a large repertoire. One thing we had a lot was fried chicken and boxed rice. You know, the red box Carolina rice, maybe I can't remember. That was always overcooked and had lots of butter in it. We had a lot of white food, basically. Um, I don't remember much beyond that, honestly. We had she made waffles on Sundays, which was nice. Christmas and Thanksgiving meals were identical. Turkey stuffing, mashed potatoes, yams with the marshmallow stuff, gravy, apple juice, apple juice. Um, and always the dessert always was my grandmother's homemade ice cream cake, which from what I understand is just taking ice cream and layering it on top of each other and then cutting it into slices. It's great. Yeah, meals were not the best, but she tried. Not a dessert people, actually. Now that you mention it, I never thought of that. Denissa, question. What's your favorite genre of music and musical artists? I like all kinds of music, actually. I mean, if I had to choose, like my favorites are classic rock, folk, classical, and opera. My favorite artists are The Who's my favorite band. I love Tori Amos, Amy Mann, um, Joan Arbitrating, Nils Lofgren, Pete Townsend, a lot of people. I could keep going on. Sorry, I don't want to bore you. But classically, in terms of classical music, Mozart is my favorite. My favorite operas are Mozart operas, and yeah, I go back and forth. But I think my favorite composer is Bach, but could be Mozart on any given day as well. Thank you for asking. I hope I didn't bore you too much. Also, I'm in full recognition that I need to listen to more new music. I get in ruts, you know. I just do. Just me. Thank you as always. Good to have you here. Celebration fee. All Trumpian parties got soundly routed in Aussie election. Hallelujah. That's fantastic. See, it is a trend everywhere but here. So let's just make sure we have an election next year so we can do what Canada did and what Australia did, because that would be fun. Because then maybe we get some momentum going. All right, Philip again. Question: do you think school kids starting as early as grade 1 should be getting hooked on steaks? Linda McMahon said the Department of Education will ensure kids get an A1 education. Chomp chomp. I think that's what that emoji is. I'm not really sure, but it's cute. I do not think that children as young as grade 1 should be getting hooked on anything except maybe phonics. And not even phonics, because I do not believe that that is the way to teach children how to read. For those of you who aren't aware, the secretary of the soon-to-be former Department of Education was trying to say something smart about artificial intelligence, but she ended up talking, instead of saying AI, she said A1, which most of us know is a steak sauce and has little to do with education. But again, since she is leading a department that is destined to be destroyed, why should she bother knowing anything? Yeah. People are deeply weird. Like, on top of everything else, it's just the weirdness. My goodness. Regina, thank you as always. Comment. Oh, happy belated birthday. Thank you so much for that. Question: did Donald's approval rating tank again? He just seems extra feisty this weekend. Yeah, it's very possible. I mean, regardless of the approval rating, he knows. He knows that all is not well. And sometimes when, and again, this is just kind of speculation, but when like you feel off, and it's not quite clear yet, but you think that something's wrong, and then like a couple of days later, you realize you're getting sick, right? And that's why you felt off, but you didn't know because you didn't feel sick yet. I think he's having that kind of experience, like with his psychological dysfunction and his inability to manage anything or to keep his equilibrium. Like, he's had a couple of disastrous interviews. His I guess you have to call it a commencement speech at the University of Alabama was one of the most horrific things I've ever seen in my life. And again, like, he's been doing and saying horrific things for a long time, but there's definitely things are getting worse. And it's sort of like he has some sense that all is not well, but he can't identify what it is. And I think that's freaking him out a little bit. Good. And of course, he's never going to figure it out because that would mean admitting that the problem is him. That's our job. All right. In the middle of nowhere. Thank you, as always, in the middle of nowhere. Question: have you heard anything about Texas becoming its own country? I read somewhere that Texas was applying for its own stock exchange. Now Elon and his town. Oh, that would be awesome. I don't know. Texas is an ornery little state. It's been threatening to secede almost since the beginning, honestly. I don't. I have no doubt I need to confirm this, but I would be shocked if there weren't some movement in Texas, that some well-organized movement to make Texas secede. But I don't think it's technically possible. I really don't. Unless, if I guess Elon Musk buys Texas's independence, how much could it possibly cost? I don't know. But I think, compared to other red states, Texas is fairly wealthy. So I wouldn't put too much stock in it. And, we always have to remember that there are a lot of people in Texas who deserve better. So. All right. We have a question from Dan over at my Substack. Do you think when Donald said he doesn't know if he'll uphold the Constitution, it's just a reflex reaction or he doesn't understand what that means? Okay, for context, Donald gave another really bad interview over the weekend, and he was asked if he's required to uphold the Constitution. At least I think that was the gist of the question, ish. And he said he didn't know. Now, anybody who read the Constitution would know that. And also, the answer is implied in the question. If your powers are vested in you solely because of the constitutional authorities granted you, then obviously you need to uphold the Constitution, right? So I think part of it is a reflex of his not feeling that he should be bound by anything. And part of it is just his deep, deep, deep and creepy ignorance. He hasn't read the Constitution. He doesn't care what it says. He doesn't care what his actual powers are. He's just going to do what he wants to do when he wants to do it, however he wants to do it, and just try to stop him. So yeah, not a good look for sure. And I have not had a chance to see that interview, but I worry that the interviewer did not do enough to push back, because that would have required some serious digging in of the heels and saying, "Excuse me, we cannot continue the conversation until we settle this matter." A smashing Data 42, thank you so very much for that. Comment: there should be a social media trolling campaign to pressure or trick Donald into answering mocha test questions in public. Yes, that would be fun. Okay, for those not aware, MOCA stands for the Montreal Cognitive Assessment. It is a very, very brief test designed as a very quick screen for incipient dementia. So it's designed to be passed. Like, if you don't pass this test, something's wrong. You should get 100 on this test. Like 94%, that's worrisome. It's kind of like blood oxygen, right? What are the oximeters? If your blood oxygen is below 90, like 95%, that sounds great, right? No. When it comes to blood oxygen, no, that's bad. Anything below that, you should be worried. It's the same thing with the MOCA. If you're getting 94%, that's borderline worrisome. And if you understand what the questions are, you're shown pictures of 3 things and you have to name them. Camel, football, house. That's 3 points right there. And it takes less than 10 minutes to take the test. So how can we do that? I don't know. I think we already have, though, done it. Remember when he was bragging about it during his first administration? And he's like, camera, TV, person, man, woman. As if those were the objects you needed to remember, because like you are read a list of 5 objects and then you need to recall them 5 minutes later. Well, he just showed that he failed, because one of the rules about the objects on the list is that they cannot be related to each other. So, in other words, they have to be a completely different class of things. So, man, woman, person, those are in the same category of things. Those questions would never be on the mocha. Camera, TV, same thing. So, clearly, he fails. I'm going to think about that, though, and come up with something. Caroline, great to see you, and thank you as always for that. Question: where is your peaceful turtle drawing? I miss seeing it behind you, Mary. I miss seeing it behind me too. Don't worry, turtle's safe, turtle's fine, turtle's around here somewhere. But as you can see, we redid our studio, also known as my other room, and look, it's all fancy now. And like the really important stuff is done. Well, I'm sorry, I don't mean to diss the turtle because the turtle's very important to me. But like all the tech stuff had to be done first. So we've got our soundproofing board which is beautiful. We got all the cameras and the lights set up. So um the next part hasn't happened yet. I'm gonna get shelves, put the turtle back where the turtle belongs. So do not worry. I love that. My daughter made that for me for one of my birthdays. So years ago. I'm very proud of that turtle. And it will be back in its pride of place soon. Thank you for asking. And I'm also very glad that you like the turtle too, because I love it. VWOW, thank you very much. Comment, celebrated May the 4th be with you at Drag Queen Show. Awesome. That sounds like fun. Oh, yes. By the way, May the 4th be with you. I always forget about May the 4th being with you. I don't know why. But a drag show sounds like a great place to celebrate that. I'm betting there might have been lots of cosplay. Ghostly Air 59, thank you so much for that. We appreciate it. Well, all right. Comment. Donation for Mary Swear Jar. Yeah. I'm trying. Love how you are super real and tell it like it is. F-bombs and all. This is why I watch you all day, every day. Never stop being you. Well, that's very kind because there are some people who feel the opposite. So no. Like literally some people like comment like, oh, you shouldn't swear. Yeah, just as for the turtle, right? Part of the problem is the turtle will reflect. I'm getting non-reflective glass, so the turtle can be displayed in all of her glory. But listen, I understand. I think there's such a thing as swearing too much. I believe in judicious swearing. But also, I challenge anybody to live through the times we're living through and not swear. So thank you. So thank you, Ghostly Air 59. I appreciate the support. Sybil, thank you so very much for that. Awesome. Question, 3-part. Mary, have you ever ridden a motorcycle? Do you know any motorcyclists? Do you understand biker group language? Okay. I have been on a motorcycle. I was young. I was 17, probably. Some guy, as one does. I'm afraid of motorcycles. That was the only time I rode a motorcycle. I can imagine if one weren't afraid of that, they'd probably be awesome. But I didn't have an experience, but something happened to somebody in my neighborhood when I was a kid. I'm not going to say any more about it. So I have this thing about motorcycles. So I don't know motorcyclists. Oh wait, yes I do. Not well though. And I do not understand biker group language, but I bet it's fascinating. So, I'm probably missing out, but again, it's personal. But if you are a motorcyclist, cool, and enjoy it, and please be safe. Like it worries me a little. That's all. All right, from Substack, Joe asks, question, are you looking for a particular kind of kitten? I thought I'd give you a break from thinking about Donald. Well, thank you for that. I'm looking for a rescue kitten. Those are my only, that's my only criterion for the kind of kitten. Preferably also a healthy kitten. I've had some bad experiences in the past, and I think it's better to make sure that the kittens are healthy before they're moved, or that you get them early enough so that you can get the medical attention that they maybe are getting where they are, whatever. But yeah, just a rescue kitten. That's it. No other criteria. Diane, thank you so very much for that. FYI, Texas became its own country in 1836. Then it became the 28th state in 1845. I feel like that's something I should have known. I also think we probably all would have been better off if, well, this is not true. I was going to say would have been better off if Texas had stayed its own state, but that is not true because Texas enslaved human beings and wanted to be able to continue doing so. And in fact, the reason we have Juneteenth now is because Texas ignored the fact that the North had won the Civil War, and just decided not to tell anybody. So people in Texas were enslaved for longer than other people because Texas didn't set them free. Yeah. So this is why we have to think about the whole, like every part of it, Yeah, Texas sucks in many, many ways. Like it is the leading edge of fascism in this country. However, a lot of good people in Texas who wish that were not the case, and we cannot leave them behind. Another question from Substack. Pia says, check with your local indivisible chapter. Plans are being made to do national protests on June 14th. Fabulous. Thank you, Pia. That's great to know. Because seriously, I mean, I think the protest should just be in DC and just shut it down. That's my point of view, and I'm sticking to it. PNW UTA, I think. Sorry. Thank you as always. Thanks to your podcast, Mary, 258 million lives have been saved, and I'm using less fentanyl. Hashtag Beyondi Moment. Yes, that's true. Mary Trump Media single-handedly has saved 258 million lives and eradicated fentanyl. Need I say more? No. I said it, so it must be true. And if Pam Bondi agrees, who could argue? Ginger Rogers. I love Ginger Rogers, like deeply. Thank you for the donation. Question: any info on Donald's history of ties with Russia? Well, they're long-standing, and he's owned by Vladimir Putin. Yeah, I mean, they go back until the 80s, and Donald's been laundering Russian oligarch money since the 90s at least. So yes, he's beholden big time. And this is all well documented. The fact that it doesn't matter to most people continues to shock me. Should have mattered more in 2016, that's for sure. Oh, wait, sorry. A highly qualified woman was running against him. Stupid of me. Jana, question. I'm late to the party. Did we talk about the Pope photo? Nope, we did not. But we can. Donald, who is a deeply strange person, also a heathen, and even if he were Christian, he's not Catholic. He wants to be Pope, apparently, or he thinks he should be Pope because he's insane. And he shared on his failing social media site a Photoshop picture of himself dressed as the pontiff, which is something only a deeply unwell person would do. So I just don't even know anymore. Okay. Deshaun, wow, thank you so much, Deshaun. That's awesome. You're welcome, guys, for the people in comments. And what do you think about R.F. Kennedy removing people from stopping their kids from committing suicide, such as autism and LGBT It's a program where they can talk to the kids. Yeah. Okay. Robert Kennedy is a danger to society. He's a sociopath. He spreads lies that get people killed. He spreads lies that make people that cause people to make very bad choices vis-a-vis vaccines, vis-a-vis their attitudes about autism or people on the spectrum, vis-a-vis trans people, et cetera, et cetera. So now Health and Human Services, of which he is secretary, is canceling a program that I apologize. I don't remember what it's called. But the point of it is to 988. I don't oh, got it. Sorry. It's a suicide hotline. And it's as advertised. It's for people who are struggling. I mean, it could be LGBTQ plus people, people on the spectrum. These are communities, already vulnerable communities that are literally under attack by the Secretary of Health and Human Services, which is supposed to serve these communities of people. And now he's taking away their suicide hotline. I mean, it's just insanity, especially if you consider, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it does not take a lot of money to fund this kind of program. So this is on top of being sociopathic, it's sadistic, and it's going to lead to people getting killed, killing themselves. We're gonna drop the link in the chat, I believe. So thank you for bringing that up because it's very important. And so, so much goes under the radar. Focus lady. Oh, thank you so much for that. That's very kind of you. Good evening, Mary. Question. Why would he want to be the Pope? And do you think he's actually serious about it? Thank you for the live Q&A. I don't, because he thinks he should be everything. He thinks he's better than everybody. He thinks he's great. He thinks he thinks he can do everything better. I mean, he's insane. Is he serious about it? That I don't know. I mean, if he is, what, like, game over? Let's call it, because only the most deeply unwell person who's not a Catholic, is not in the church, like, isn't a cardinal, is a heathen, and is depraved. Like, he's a deeply depraved man who's done deeply depraved things. Only the most deeply unwell person in his position could actually think that that's something that could happen or that should happen. So, I don't know. Deb, thank you so much, Deb. Dr. Mary, I've read both your books. They're great. Your memory is amazing. Question. Were they emotionally difficult to write, or was it more cathartic for you? Okay, so the first book was just difficult because I hadn't I'd never written a book before, and it was very different from the kind of writing I had done. So I needed to make sure I got the psychology right, obviously, and I needed to make sure I got the structure right. Hopefully I did that. The last book, the one that's actually a memoir, it was not cathartic at all. It was actually quite difficult to write. I mean, I'm glad I did it, but it wasn't easy. I don't actually think that kind of writing is cathartic. I mean, maybe it is for some people, but it's definitely wasn't for me. But I'm very grateful that you read them and that you appreciated them. So thank you. Still alive. Excellent. And thank you. Question. Have you ever known or met Roy Cohn growing up? Yes, I didn't know him, but I met him, sadly. I was in the same room with that Nazi. He's at Donald's wedding. And just quick aside. Remember the movie? Was it the Apprentice? that movie that came out at the end of last year. I made a video about my thoughts about it. Not about the movie so much as my thoughts about how certain things in the movie, like my dad, were portrayed. And in the movie, my dad is at Donald's wedding, making a complete drunken ass out of himself. My father wasn't there, so I have a problem with that. He was not invited to Donald's wedding, or he was uninvited to Donald's wedding, I should say. Roy Cohn was there, so I'm sure I saw him. I was 12, so it's not like he and I were hanging out, and thank goodness, because he was one of the most vile, evil people. Actually, I think that Stephen Miller is Roy Cohn's son. You know, not literally, figuratively speaking. Sorry, didn't mean to confuse all of you. Like Stephen Miller is like carbon copy of Roy Cohn, not actually his son. Janet, thank you so much, Janet. Oh, cool. This is my first super chat. Am I doing it right? I love Marriage on Media. Yes, indeed you are. And you know how we know? I just read your question. Cool. So welcome. We're glad you're here. And thank you again. Dylan, thank you so much, Dylan. Question. How much influence do you think the Heritage Foundation has within the Trump regime? It seems to be warping into full-blown theocracy. How can they do this as their separation of church and state? Well, the Heritage Foundation is largely behind Project 2025, the fascist manifesto that is basically an outline of everything the Trump regime is doing and has been doing since day one. So, yes, the Heritage Foundation has enormous influence within the Trump regime. And for a very long time now, they have been gunning for the separation of church and state, just as they have been gunning for Roe v. Wade. So the Heritage Foundation is a very dangerous organization, and the Democrats have not done nearly enough to counter it in any way. So there is no equivalent, sadly, on the left, and the Heritage Foundation is so connected to the power structure on the right that I think its influence just continues to grow. Okay, from Substack, Ellen asks, will taxpayers have to foot the bill to remove all the fake gold leaf from the Oval Office one day? Did Donald at least buy it at discount from the Joanne closings? I don't know what that means, but somebody will tell me. Yeah, that the grotesquerie that is Donald's Oval Office kind of burns my eyes, actually. I again, like, are there no rules? Are there no things that one is not allowed to do just because you happen to be? I don't get it. It's disgusting. It looks like some tin pot dictator's idea of a luxury villa or something. It's just ugly and hideous and exactly Donald's aesthetic. So basically, I didn't know this because we don't have them in New York, but for those of you who are not aware, Joann's Fabrics is like Michael's. It's where you go to get crafty stuff to make crafts, for example, is what I meant. Not crafty as in wily. Like, what's the fascist, Christo-fascist version? Holly Hobby. Not Holly Hobby. I don't Hobby something. Something tells me I'm gonna know that soon. Hobby Lobby. Don't go to Holly Lobby. Hobby, whatever. Don't go there. Oh my God. KG10 to TH5. I don't know what that means, but thank you so much for the donation. Comment, Donald is more into Diet Coke than mocha. Yes, clearly. Nipodzia, thank you very much. Question, does Donald ever regret anything? Ever? Like the Pope's done making new detractors worldwide. Is the tacky image day meant to distract from the Pope? Donald never regrets anything ever because he's never wrong in his own little tiny dwarfed mind. He's never wrong. He's better than you. He's smarter than you. He's righter than you. There are no regrets ever. Being regretful makes you wrong. Being wrong makes you a loser. Being a loser, that makes you expendable. Literally. The Pope stunt, I think it's just Donald not regretting anything and thinking that he should be Pope because he should be king, because he should be emperor, because he should be God. His Divine Scadu, hello, and thank you so much. Question, seeing as egalitarianism is highly unlikely in our lifetime, do you think libertarianism could be a viable pursuit? I think I pronounced that wrong. Libertarianism. Sorry. I don't know. I'm gunning for egalitarianism personally. Like, let's not give up on that first, please. Actually, you know what? I changed my mind. Let's just survive fascism first before we decide how to handle where we land next, right? I think, and again, I'm not that familiar with the concept of libertarianism, but and so forgive me if I'm getting I'm getting it wrong. But my understanding is that it's essential. It's sort of what it says. It's setting limits beyond which people should not be allowed to go, whether it's having too much power, having too much money, having too much of anything. And yes, I mean, I think we should be doing that anyway, of course, because one of the reasons we're in the trouble we're in is because of the obscene wealth gap. How the rich get richer, richer, richer. The rest of us are either stagnating or worse, getting worse in terms of our prospects. It's creating all sorts of terrible problems. Same thing with resources. Resources are not shared in a way that's equitable. Certainly not equitable, but even, adequate. So maybe libertarianism is not a bad stop on the way to egalitarianism. But I mean, I don't think it should be a separate thing is what my point. I think it should be built in because you can't have a real democracy. You can't have a highly functioning democracy without setting limits on people. And guess what? That's exactly what we're finding out right now. So I would prefer it be built into our definition of who we are and how we govern ourselves. But failing that, yeah, let's go for it because you're probably right. Egalitarianism, very sad that I don't know that we're gonna get there. All right, I have a bunch of people to thank before we wrap this up. Stage of Suffering, awesome, thank you. Kendra, super sticker, thank you as always, Kendra. Another super sticker. Char, thanks, Char. Another one, Donna, thank you as always, and that's awesome. Very generous of you. Jackson, thanks. Another super sticker, fantastic. These are all super stickers, so consider yourself a super sticker until I say otherwise. Kalana, fantastic. Thank you very much. Laura, awesome. Very generous of you. We really appreciate it. Thomas, you too. That's fantastic. Guru Prem, thank you very much. That's great. Kristen, thank you so much. And thank you, Mary. Mary's Harvey, I think. Sorry, I'm not sure. Mary's Harvey was not a super sticker, but Dusk Tracy is, and Dusk, that's fantastic. Thank you so very, very much. You guys know how much this helps us. Plenty Fed Up, thanks so much for that. Cheryl, thank you. Canadian in the house, you guys rock. Kathy, thank you very, very much. Marilyn, you too. That's fantastic. And also YouTube user, excellent. Much appreciated. Paul, another Canadian. Keep up the good work, guys. Love it. Thank you. Sandra, thank you very much for that. Cindy, thank you. Awesome. I hate when the NSA interrupts the show. I was just thanking people. Well, I guess they don't want you guys helping us out. That's my theory. Anyway, I was just about at the end. So thanks, guys. Seriously, everybody watching on YouTube, streaming on Twitter, and from my Substack, The Good in Us. So appreciate that. Everybody listening to the podcast version of this, and again, super stickers, people giving us gifts. You guys make this happen, and we appreciate it more than we can say. It really, really, really matters to all of our moderators who do a huge job keeping this place amazing. And to my whole team, but on Sundays, this is all Mercedes. So thank you, Mercedes, for keeping this going and for making me look like I know things that I actually don't know. But I know them now. So that's cool. All right. It is Sunday night. I will be back tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday. That's Mary Trump Live, 6 p.m. Eastern. Do not forget there are videos dropping every day. And the easiest way to support us is to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It's free. And when we do have new videos dropping, just like them, share them, comment on them. That helps us tremendously with YouTube to get our videos in front of other people. Simplest way to help us out. And again, doesn't cost anything. All right. I will see you all tomorrow here at 6 p.m. Eastern. In the meantime, everybody, please stay safe and be kind.